7 long strides shalt thou take, if long Compton thou canst see, King of England thou shalt be.
Most people have heard of Stonehenge, but what about the Rollright Stones? These lesser known megaliths can be found on the Oxfordshire and Warwickshire border, on the edge of the rolling Cotswold hills. The origins of these stones are shrouded in mystery, but many have attempted to explain them with tales of witches, kings, aliens and more. So what are the Rollright Stones? And what do we know about these enigmatic monuments? I'm your host Prash, and this is Curious Britain. If you drive along the A3400 in Chipping Norton, Oxfordshire, and turn off towards the hamlet of Little Rollright, there is nothing obvious to suggest that this unassuming part of the British countryside is home to a collection of stones which are several thousand years old, except for a small lay-by parking area at the side of the road with a gate allowing pedestrians access into the English heritage site. Turning to take in the scenery as you get out of the car, you'll notice the road is edged with trees and bushes, occasionally interspersed with gaps which afford a breathtaking glimpse of the softly curving patchwork quilt of green and yellow fields which bridge the two counties of Oxfordshire and Warwickshire. Inside the gate are 3 separate groups of stones, which make up the Rollrights. One of these is known as the King's Men, a 100-foot diameter circle of around 70 heavily weathered stones, arranged as if they're convening around a table for a council of war. Some of these stones are as much as 7 feet tall, and they're laid out in a way that suggests a social structure, with the tallest being the leader. This cluster is thought to date back to 2500 BC, and archaeologists believe there may once have been over 100 of them, but some have been damaged or removed over the years before the site was protected under the Ancient Monuments Act in the 1880s. The King's Men are notoriously difficult to count, and legend has it that if you count the stones 3 times and arrive at the same number each time, your wish will be granted. But this is trickier than it sounds, and you must start with a different stone each time and alternate the direction you count in. The next cluster is called the Whispering Knights, which is a group of 5 stones huddled closely together as if sharing a secret. These date to around 3500 BC, making them over 5,500 years old. Finally, a single large stone which stands alone is known as the King's Stone, dating back to the Bronze Age, around 1500 BC. All the stones are made from natural boulders of Jurassic limestone from the local hills just 500 yards from where they were erected. They're believed to have been dragged to the site using sledges or rollers and ropes, then levered into holes dug with shovels and axes. Estimates place the time to completion at about a month, if a dozen or so people were involved in the construction process. But why go to all this trouble? What did the ancient people of Rollright believe about the stones and the relevance of their positions? Those who have studied the site for years say that one pair of stones looks like it was meant to be a portal or gateway. The patterns are very deliberate, and some similarities with other stone circles imply the builders may have been connected culturally or geographically to Eastern Ireland, Wales and the Lake District, but not with Stonehenge or any other circles found in the southwest of the country. On closer inspection, the Whispering Knights were most likely a dolmen or type of open burial chamber, which would once have had a capstone which has fallen off its supporting stones at some point. It's also possible that the Knights are the earliest funerary monument in Britain, and several bones have been found near them which were radiocarbon dated back to 1700 BC. An excavation in the 1980s also revealed evidence of cremation from a similar period. At least, that's today's scientific interpretation. But there are other traditional stories that seek to explain the origins of these extraordinary stones. One such tale goes that an invading king from another country was marching his army through the land when he came across a witch, who uttered a cryptic incantation at him, something witches in folklore had a habit of doing.
7 long strides shalt thou take, if Long Compton thou canst see, King of England thou shalt be.
The interloper king took her up on the offer, without stopping to question why the witch would be so kind as to offer him a chance of ruling England simply for taking 7 steps forward and looking out for the village of Long Compton, which he knew was close by. He rubbed his hands together in glee, gold and silver rings, ransacked from the lands he conquered, glinting on his fingers. He replied,
"Stick, stock, stone, as King of England I shall be known."
He was on high ground, and Long Compton lay just in front of him, so he should have had an easy view of it. But when he had taken 7 long strides, he realised to his dismay that a large mound of earth was blocking his line of sight. He had fallen for the witch's trick. With a superior air of glee, the witch chanted,
As Long Compton thou canst not see, King of England thou shalt not be. Rise up, stick, and stand still, stone, for King of England thou shalt be none. Thou and thy men hoar-stones shall be, and myself an elder tree.
And so the king was turned to stone, along with his army. Most of his men in a circle representing his faithful followers, and a group of 5 others whispering together, representing some untrustworthy knights who were conspiring against him. All were eternally bound to the earth they had once wished to rule, and the witch turned herself into an elder tree to keep watch over them. Whether or not the stones really are the would-be king and his men frozen in time, other local lore states that at midnight, every megalith gets up and dances, sometimes wandering off to drink from a nearby stream. Yet they are extremely reluctant for any human to try and move them. Once a farmer decided to take one of the Whispering Knights, thinking it would be just the thing to bridge a stream that ran across his land. Incidentally, the same stream that the stones were said to drink from. The story goes that it took more than 20 horses to shift the stone, and 2 men were killed in the process. Once the stone was laid on the man's farm, it insisted on moving by itself and was found lying in the grass every morning. But the restlessness of the stone was the least of the farmer's worries, as his crops had suddenly failed. Sensing that something powerful and unnatural was at play, he returned the stone to its original site, whereupon his fortunes began to improve. The hilltop on which the Rollright Stones rest became an important Royal Signal Corps post during World War II to watch for enemy aircraft, due to the excellent view of the surrounding countryside in all directions. Unfortunately, a ring of larch trees had to be cut down to make way for it. One can only hope that one of these was not a witch in disguise. The site remained part of Britain's defences during the Cold War, becoming an early warning post with an underground bunker which was decommissioned and closed off in 1992. One modern theory about the Rollright Stones is that aliens visited Earth thousands of years ago to set up the stones as a kind of beacon to be viewed from above. It's not clear why this would be needed, as if aliens are advanced enough to travel light years through space to land here, you would assume they have a more sophisticated way of marking particular spots than placing a cryptic cluster of stones. Another suggestion is that some kind of force or energy is concentrated in and around the formations. Scientist Anthony Burton was sceptical and carried out a pendulum test in the 1970s to see if there was really any mileage in this theory. He took a conker on the end of a piece of string to see if it reacted to any unusual energy in the atmosphere. His test was recorded on tape for a local radio station, and Burton surprised both himself and the listeners when his conker began spinning madly whenever it came near one of the King's men's stones. Perhaps many people sense this energy and feel that it's something benevolent, as the stones are a popular place for solstice celebrations and private wedding ceremonies, and as a backdrop for sculpture exhibitions and outdoor drama productions, such as Mark Rylance's The Tempest in 1992. There have even been the location for various TV dramas and documentaries, including Stargazing Live and Doctor Who, firmly cementing their place in British culture. Today the stones are extremely pitted and worn. Even in the early 1800s they looked worse for wear. Antiquarian William Stukeley, famous for his scholarly investigations of Stonehenge and Avebury, described them as corroded like worm-eaten wood by the harsh jaws of time. But even in the stone's old age, they are benefiting the environment, as 50 different species of lichen can be found growing on them, colouring their grey sides with little mossy patches of black, white and yellow. The stones now make for a popular educational day trip for local primary schools, and the hilltop is often used as a field observatory by the Chipping Norton Amateur Astronomy Group, thanks to its open vista which makes for stunning views of the night sky. The Rollright Stones remain an enigma. The least likely of all these tales is perhaps that of the witch and the king. As tempting as it is to believe such a lively piece of folklore, archaeologists prove that the ages of the megaliths differ, spanning about 2,000 years, so they can't be people who were all turned to stone on the same day. So what are we left with? Were they the scene of social events and celebrations in the lives of the ancients who dwelt in their shadow, their singing, dancing, storytelling, and worship bringing joyful, sombre, or reverent sights, sounds and emotions to the rocks? Or could they have been left on top of the Cotswold hills by interstellar travellers for reasons we can only imagine? It seems that 5,500 years since the first of the Rollright Stones were placed there, the mystery lives on. You've been listening to Curious Britain. This show is run by a husband and wife team, me, Prash, and my wife, Melissa, and between the two of us we do all the research, writing, narration and audio production. We think there's a lot to love about the ancient isles we call home. After all, few places in the world are shrouded in as much myth, legend, history and mystery as Britain, and we spend our spare time learning about fascinating parts of the UK's cultural heritage so we can bring the stories to you. Join us again next time as we continue to explore our vibrant history, from UFOs and fascinating folk tales through to real-life quirky history, archaeological wonders and more, in this celebration of everything curious about Britain.